Hello, Teen Esteem, Facebook Live. Hello, parents, and hopefully some teenagers. I am here with a very, very special guest, my nephew, Casey. So, Casey, hi.
Hey,
Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
so I'm Casey, 19 years old. I am currently living in an SLE. It's
What's an
uh,
SLE?
I was getting there,
Okay,
stands
good.
sober living environment. And don't get me wrong, I did not want to come here at first, but I'm so thankful I did. I love it here. But I'm here after going to a rehab or treatment center because you can just say the stuff hit the fan.
Give us a little bit of background about yourself, just personally, and what you're interested in.
I wrestled. I was a captain. Did good in wrestling.
You
Just
did very well in wrestling.
yeah,
Very well.
well. And then I went to DVC for a semester. Um, and yeah,
And that's when the stuff hit the fan and
yeah.
you got really off track. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. How long have you been sober?
Today's 151 days.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank
Really
you.
proud of you. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your journey and where it kind of got off track with substances?
The very first thing, I guess, illegal was my jewel. Um,
Hmm.
that was step one. It was
And
after,
how old were you?
I would say I was a freshman in high school.
Okay. And that's kind of early on in the jewel world where vaping was
Yeah,
relatively new.
yeah,
So
yeah.
someone said, hey, here's this jewel,
Hmm.
give it a try.
Yeah, and I remember I like vaped before that, like not my own, but like just blow smoke, think it was cool. But I'd always make sure there was no nicotine because I heard that was bad for you.
Okay.
And somebody hands me a jewel, and I was like, "Is there Nick?" He's like, "A ton of it," and he was hitting it and loving it, and I was like, "All right, what's up with that?" So I remember hitting it, getting that lightheaded feeling, and the rest is history.
Just from one hit, it made you lightheaded?
Oh yeah, you cough. He said he warned me. He's like, "You're gonna cough. Just get through the cough, do it again, and trust me." I was like, "All right, I
So would you
trust you."
say that you were pretty hooked quickly with a jewel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's people that, I mean, there's very few people that can hit it when they want. I'm
That
not.
they're controlling it and it's not controlling them.
Yeah,
That's kind of where it started for you into that substance use. You had told me earlier that for you that was that hitting of the jewel was kind of like opening the first gate.
hmm
And
yeah.
how long did that take to get into other arenas as that after that gate opened?
So once that gate was opened, you know, I lasted 2 weeks until I bought one myself, and then I started smoking weed. That was the next step, I guess.
Smoking it or vaping it?
Smoking it. Yeah,
Okay.
just out of a little pipe, and
You didn't transition to vaping weed until later, or did you vape weed?
that was later when
Because
it.
some parents out here don't know that that's a thing, that you can actually vape marijuana.
Oh yeah, big time.
Would you
Yeah.
say that's pretty common that people transition from vaping nicotine into vaping marijuana? I mean, not
I don't
everybody, obviously. Some people will just stick to vaping, but
know if I'd say it's common, just because there's a lot of people I know that don't mess with nicotine whatsoever and
mm,
smoke just a lot of weed.
okay. All
But
right.
yeah, usually if you're doing one, you're doing the other.
And
'Cause,
what did that do for your wrestling? I mean, you were the stud wrestler all the while you're vaping, smoking marijuana. Do you
uh,
look back at that and think, man, how much further you could have gone in your wrestling career if you were not doing that? Even though you were already were going to go to state and all
yeah,
NCS.
um, yeah. So if I'm being completely honest, I've tested it myself.
Mm,
I've gone. I don't even know if you know this, but I've gone while in season.
mm-hmm,
I took a break from nicotine and
mm-hmm,
just smoked weed.
mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, my cardio went way up. And then the second I So even if I stopped smoking weed, if it was all the nicotine, that would destroy my cardio. I could barely run around the track. Like,
That was gas in your lungs, whereas marijuana wasn't gassing your lungs per se.
right.
Did you feel any negative effects at that time from marijuana?
No, I was on cloud nine. I was once that ball started rolling, and I got my own piece. I was high at practice, like every day. I would leave practice early, go smoke.
For marijuana.
But
So on the
and
one hand, it didn't gas you and make you tired, but you cut out of practice early because would you
mhm,
say you were addicted to it?
looking back, yeah,
Yeah.
um, you're in it. There's no way that you could like admit you're addicted or think you're addicted. You don't. You'll tell yourself. You'll lie to yourself. You'll say you're not addicted. You're just doing it because
But yet the sport that you love, that you're dedicated, you're trying to go to state, you would leave early as the captain to make sure you get so you'd stay on that high. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and yeah, definitely. And with
Okay.
Nick, after a wrestling match, literally in practice, I'd run over to my little bag and just stick my face in my bag. Just
During
get
practice.
in practice.
So maybe that was a sign of addiction at
Yeah.
that time because you couldn't get through practice without it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was hard to go an hour.
And it's so low profile that you could do that and easily get away with it because you didn't smell. It was almost like you're going for a water break and you could do it so discreetly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
Same
In
thing in class,
class, 100%. There's
anywhere.
call it ghosting. They just say ghost it, and it's just you blow out nothing, and it's really easy.
Wow. Okay. So when did you go so a couple weeks after juuling, then smoking weed, and then where did that take you?
What's funny is when somebody told me it's a gateway drug, I'd be like, shut up. Like, no, it's not. Like,
I remember you were arguing, like finding articles on the internet, sending them to your dad, trying
yeah,
to explain that no, this is not a problem drug, right?
it's because I never met somebody like me now. And to
Mm,
tell me that, hey, don't think short term. Maybe it's not a gateway drug right now, right? Maybe it's not.
right.
Maybe you're doing all this other stuff. But if you don't start with this, you're not going to get to
Yeah.
this. And it's going to happen before you even know.
Yeah.
And it'll be too late by the time you're on the tenderloin.
Well, it's tricky because when you're young, you can look at people that are functional and think that guy smokes weed every day and he has good grades and he's going to go to college and right. So what's the deciding factor? Would you say, like, how do you know someone's going to go completely off track and derail, or if it's just going to be a little blip and they get back on? Like, who can safely recreationally use marijuana as a teenager? Would you say?
I don't think anybody can,
Yeah,
because
especially
I
the teenage brain, right? It's still
just
developing.
it's literally in it's just fate. It's you have no control. It's you don't have control. It has control over you without you even knowing it
Yeah.
does.
And so we've talked about what can we do as parents and what can we do as educators for Teen Esteem to reach students we're on the prevention side. So we're trying to talk to kids about, hey, think before you make that choice. Think, how could marijuana derail you? How could vaping? How could um, all these different kind of high risk activities? What do you think is really important with that messaging and that timing? Because when we talked before about vaping in particular, do you remember what you said?
What I say,
You got to get them young.
it's true. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know at Teen Esteem, we're starting as early as fifth grade, trying to talk to them in assemblies about vaping at an age appropriate level. By the time you're in ninth grade, a lot of times people have already tried it and it's hard to reel them back in.
Yeah, yeah. It's the crowd. It's the crowd you're with. It's the people you're hanging out with. And by nature, you tell your kid don't hang out with these people, and they're already your friends. You're going to hang out with those people. Um, and I remember someone saying peer pressure is like the number one thing, and I remember people joking. It's like a joke, like, oh, like don't like peer pressure. Like literally, they make it a joke. At the same time, they're joking. It's peer pressure. It's literally peer pressure. They'll say, like, they'll laugh and say peer pressure. Um, when you're like, all right, like whatever, but you're hitting a pipe.
What does a parent do to try and help steer their kids away from an unhealthy friend group?
That's $1 million question right there. And I think from my experience, instead of saying don't hang out with these people, encourage hanging out with this person.
Okay. Take a more positive twist. So don't focus on the negative of this group, but somehow see how you can nurture hanging
Yeah.
out with.
Yeah,
Because you had different groups of friends. It wasn't like you just had the drug friends.
exactly. I had the wrestling crew, and I had a, and then I started hanging out with the wrestling crew a lot more, and that's when I guess it wasn't it was a slower decline.
So when did your use go from try it, fun, experiment to becoming a coping mechanism for you? And I don't know how much of that you want to share, but you didn't start it as a coping mechanism. You just started it peer pressure, try it, like a lot of teenagers do. But as we talk about mental health awareness month, substance use and mental health a lot of times go hand in hand.
Yeah, so I think as far as marijuana, I started, as fun, and I think I got addicted long before I realized I was addicted. I don't think I used it for coping. I smoked so much that I would say when I'm high off weed, I would say I'm sober. That was my sober, because I would have to be messed up on something else for me to say I'm messed up. But as far as Xanax, which was my go-to, that also started as just an experiment. I was at a party, somebody had some stuff, and that one quickly turned from like, oh, I like this, to coping, because I realized like I didn't think about anything. I didn't think about my mom's sickness. I didn't think about what people were saying. I just was in my own little stuff. And I just remember doing my own thing and not caring about anything. But the scary part is, like, when I say not caring about anything, I mean like I could have ran someone over and not looked behind me.
And you did not have that prescribed to you by a doctor ever? Never. When we talk about prescription drugs, if they're not prescribed to you,
Watch out.
there you go. Thanks for watching. Be sure to come back next week to hear more of Casey's journey, his journey of addiction and recovery, and the night before he went into rehab, what was going through his mind, and how he's learning to have fun being sober, and also more tips and encouragement for parents who might be walking through this kind of thing with their own kids. And I want to remind you, parents, that no family is immune to this. You may have been the greatest parents and done everything right and still find yourself in a place where your kids have made some really poor choices around substances. And so I don't want anyone beating up themselves and looking back at what they shoulda, coulda, woulda done. I hope that you will come out of this more educated and aware and hopeful. So come back and hear more about that next week on our Facebook Live.